Hello everyone, this is the Theoretical Doctor and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome. This is a series on the chapter Immunity of Chapter 6 of the STPM Semester 2 Biology series. Check out the full playlist on my channel. If you want access to flashcards on this topic and other videos, do click the link below. It is available on my Pinterest and slides on this topic are available on my website. In this video, we will be continuing on cell-mediated immune response, whereby we will dive into the response of helper T cells or the CD4 cells as well as the cytotoxic T cells, otherwise known as the CD8 cells, to an infection. If you would like an introduction into the differences between T lymphocytes and B lymphocytes and their types, do check out my previous video where I've talked more about this. So let's begin. I drew a diagram. For me, this is just easier to explain. So basically, when a macrophage encounters a pathogen or a bacteria, so they smile at each other, the other one is like, huh? So anyway, when a macrophage encounters a pathogen, it digests the organism, the pathogen, intracellularly, as you can see over here, and then it will display fragments of antigens bound to class 2 MHC molecules. MHC stands for major histocompatibility molecule on its plasma membrane. Okay, so after it has ingested and it displayed, it will become an antigen presenting cell. So now after it has become an antigen presenting cells, these T cells, these helper T cells, helper T cells will come. So these helper T cells will come and bind to this antigen presenting cell. So it binds to the antigen MHC complex on the antigen presenting cell with the help of CD4 surface proteins. And this interaction between the helper T cells and this antigen presenting cell will activate the helper T cells. So now after these helper T cells have become activated, they will secrete cytokines. You can see here they will secrete cytokines, and this will stimulate the helper T cells to divide repeatedly and produce more activated helper T cells as well as the memory T cells over here. Okay, so the cytokines secreted by the helper T cells also activate cytotoxic T cells, which then act on the target cells such as virus-infected body cells, cancer cells, or transplanted or grafted tissue. So this part over here, I'm actually specifically explaining on the helper T cells in the cell-mediated immune response. So this is basically the explanation that I've said. So you can pause the video over here to read the explanation, or you can rewind back and look at the diagram again. Which one, depending on which one is easier for you. So this was on the helper T cells. Now let's go to the cytotoxic T cells. Another diagram. So this one is on the cytotoxic T cells. So when target cell, earlier was the macrophage, right? So when the target cell comes across virus or cancer cells, the target cells are infected. I shall infect you, and the target cell is like, yeah, whatever. So you can see, they're happy. The other one, they're sad. Okay, anyway, back to this. So what happens is when the target cells are infected or becomes cancerous, foreign antigens within the cells are processed, just like in the previous slide, and then fragments of the cell will be presented on the plasma membrane. But this time, it is bound to class 1 MHC molecules. With cytotoxic T cells, it is class 1 MHC molecules and CD8. With helper T cells, it is class 2 MHC molecules, CD4. After they have presented, they are bound to the class 1 MHC molecules. This whole thing here becomes an antigen presenting cell, APC. These cytotoxic T cells will then come because they recognize MHC1, whereas helper T cells recognize MHC2. So after they have presented over here to the MHC1, class 1 MHC molecules, so these cytotoxic T cells will all come, and these cytotoxic T cells will bind to the APC with the help of the CD8 surface proteins, and then they will release perforins. Earlier, helper T cells release cytokines. Here, cytotoxic T cells will release perforins. So these perforin molecules, they will puncture the target cells. And when they puncture, like you see, they create holes over here. Water and ions rush inside, and this will cause the cell to swell, and finally lysis will occur, cell death will occur. So this way the cytotoxic T cells are deprived. They are deprived and the antigens of their host cells cannot reproduce. So basically they're just gonna kill our body cells, sadly, because they're part of our body cell, these target cells, but because they're being infected, now the only way to kill this being over here they have to kill our cell as well. So they kill this one, this virus or cancer cell can't survive. This activation and killing action of the cytotoxic T lymphocyte is known as the cell-mediated immune response as well, with the cytotoxic T cells. So these cytotoxic T cells, they defend the body by destroying virus-infected nucleated cell or malignant cancerous cell, and also sadly transplanted organs. This is what I explained earlier. Again, you can pause the video over here, or you can rewind and listen to the explanation again and compare, depending on which one is easier for you to understand. If you've reached this point, thank you very much. Hit the like button if you found it helpful, as it does help in reaching out to others as well. To support my channel by pressing the subscribe button so I will know, and it really gives me motivation to continue producing content like this in the future. And finally, share this video to those who might find this helpful. See you in the next one.